everybody, and welcome back to my channel. Today is going to be a knitting video, as you can see. So that's basically it. Let me get set up here because this is my first demo and I'm going to be teaching you the basics of knitting, and we're going to be knitting with this gray yarn. I don't know if it's coming out gray on camera because you never know. So I'm going to cast on, because you guys don't need to know how to cast on just yet. I think it's better to teach people how to knit first and then have them cast on, because then they'll already know how to knit, so then they can just learn how to cast on and then knit. So that's my theory, and I'm not going to show you me casting on because that'll just confuse you guys. So with the basics of knitting, you will need yarn, you will need you will need needles, and you will need scissors, if I didn't already say it. So I'm sorry if I bump this stand. I apologize. It's a bunch of books. It's not a tripod, because guess who can't get one? Me. These are double-pointed knitting needles, and I will explain them later, but you don't need to know about them now. So once you have this set up, which in a later video I will tell you how to get this set up. This is probably going to be confusing, so I'm just going to knit the first row, because this type of casting on, it's really funky, so you're going to have to knit differently. So I don't want to confuse you by saying, oh, you have to knit this way, and then you're going to have to knit this way for this type of casting on method. So let me just finish knitting the first row, and the first row always takes, it's harder because loop the loop and hopefully it makes a stitch. Okay, so I knit the first row and this is what it looks like. And so here is what your first more or less row will look like. And so let me give you anatomy really quickly. Here is what it'll look like. And so these are these stitches that you casted on in the first row, or you will. So these are the stitches, and there's 16 stitches on this needle. So when you're first starting out knitting, you always want to have an empty needle in your right hand. You will always be working on the needle on your left hand, unless you were taught to knit right-handed, but the majority of people knit left-handed. So the first step is what you're gonna do is you have this loop, and basically with knitting you are looping loops. That's all that it is. So more or less, you see you have a loop here. I said more or less, and you, without this needle, there's just a loop. If you can see it, it's just a loop. And so what we're doing is we're looping loops. So to do that, we insert this needle into the loop, and then we take the yarn and put it in between the needles. So then you have your loop, and then you have your yarn, and then you just pull that yarn through, and you can see here's our original loop and here is our new loop, but we don't need this loop anymore, so we can just scoot it off. And so you can see that this is the old loop and we have a new loop on our needles, and we are just going to do that again. Insert the needle into the loop, put the yarn in between the needles, and then pull the yarn through, and then take off the old loop. And you can see there's a loop right there, and we have a new loop on our needles. So we're just going to keep knitting and looping our loops that way. And that is basically knitting, if you get that. This is regular knitting. So once again, loop, old loop, and we're going to make a new loop. Pull the yarn through and drop off. Now let me knit a few rows and then I will come back to you. Okay, and I have knit about 2-3 rows right now, and so this is what it will look like. You will have these lines. Well, here, let me knit one more row on camera, because why not? This is really hard with my books and over time you will get faster. I know that I was not very fast when I first started, and I was getting discouraged because I'm like, why am I not picking up speed? But the more you practice, the faster you will definitely become. And this isn't the fastest that I can knit. It's because my arms are at a weird angle. So this is what it will look like. You will have, oh good lord, camera. Stop, dumb thing. So, apologize for that. This is what it will look like. You will have these rows of like wavy things, and then if you pull it apart, you see, I don't know if you guys can see it, but you have loops in loops. I don't know if it's picking it up. See, there's one. See, here's a loop, and then here's, well, like you see, here's a loop. And then from that loop, we have this loop. My camera's out. That's basically knitting regular stitch. I messed up there. Ignore that. For you guys. So hopefully that helped you. Maybe it did. Maybe it didn't. Obviously for your guys' own entertainment, if you wanted to learn how to knit. So this is gardener stitch. It's also called just regular knitting. There's a piece of hair, cat hair. Thank you, Arwen. So that's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.